She never suspected a thing. Every knock on the door, every cheerful greeting from her landlord seemed harmless, until the night she found a hidden camera in her bedroom. The footage it captured made her blood run cold, revealing a truth she could never have imagined. Who was he really, and why was he watching her? Hello, my friends. I am Olivia, and this is Olivia's Love Stories. I hope you enjoy this story. I used to think life in my tiny apartment was ordinary. The kind of ordinary that lulls you into believing that nothing exciting or terrifying ever happens. I'd wake up to the soft hum of the radiator, pour a cup of lukewarm coffee, and watch the sunlight fall in patterns across the wooden floor. My days were predictable, filled with errands, work emails, and occasional calls with my sister, who reminded me, gently, that I needed to live a little. But predictability had a comforting rhythm. I liked it that way. Even the peculiar way my landlord, Mr. Harris, lingered in the hallway with a smile that was just a little too long, I chalked it up to his awkward kindness. He was a quiet man, polite, maybe a little nosy, but nothing sinister. At least, that's what I told myself. My need was simple. I wanted safety, a place where I could finally feel secure without glancing over my shoulder. I wanted a life where I could breathe freely, without suspicion gnawing at the edges of my mind. And yet, I was restless. A tiny pulse of unease I tried to ignore. Something deep inside me always whispered that my world wasn't as safe as it seemed. It started one rainy evening. The wind rattled the windows, and raindrops slid down the glass in uneven trails, distorting the city lights outside. I was cleaning my bedroom, moving my dresser to dust under it, when I noticed a small, glinting object wedged behind the drawers. At first, I thought it was just a piece of lost jewelry or a screw that had fallen, but when I touched it, I realized it was a tiny camera. My heart froze. I felt the room shrink around me. The camera was small, almost invisible, with a lens that glimmered like a dark eye staring back at me. The air in my apartment seemed heavier, suffocating. My mind raced, spiraling through every interaction I'd had with Mr. Harris, the casual compliments, the need help with that moments. Could it really be him? Shaking, I picked up the camera and ran to my laptop. My fingers trembled so violently that I barely managed to plug it in and access the memory card. The files were all there, neatly labeled by date and time. With each click, the unease twisted tighter in my stomach. And then I saw him. Mr. Harris. Not in the hallway, not outside my window. He was inside my apartment. At first, I thought it must be a trick of the angle or some mistake, but no, there he was, moving softly across my room, as if I wasn't even there. My pulse thundered in my ears. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't look away. And then, the footage shifted and he froze, staring directly into the camera. It was as if he knew I was watching. My hands shook as I stared at the screen. Every instinct screamed at me to turn it off, to throw the laptop across the room and pretend none of this was real. But I couldn't. Some part of me needed to know. Why? The footage showed him moving through my apartment with a strange reverence, almost careful. He didn't touch anything, didn't take anything. He just lingered, sometimes looking at the walls, sometimes at the small objects on my dresser. It was terrifying, but it was also intimate. The way he moved made it clear he knew my routines, my private corners. How long had this been going on? Weeks? Months? I felt a creeping horror settle in my chest like a heavy stone. I remembered the small smile he always wore in the hallway, the polite knocks that came just as I was brushing my hair or making dinner, the casual "forgot something" when I misplaced a key. Every single one of those moments replayed in my mind, and suddenly, they were no longer innocent. They were calculated. My stomach twisted. Had I been living with him? Watching me? I pressed play on the next clip, unable to stop myself. My apartment was dark in the footage. He'd waited until nightfall, but somehow the camera captured every detail. And then I saw him pause near my bedroom window. He was looking out, but his expression was unreadable. A mixture of awe, regret, maybe even fear. My pulse raced. Who was this man, really? My phone buzzed on the table. It was a text from my best friend, Julia. I ignored it. Nothing could shake me from this frozen state. I had to see more, understand more. My life felt like a fragile glass globe, and the moment I realized someone had been inside it without my permission, the globe shattered. And then I heard it. A soft knock on my bedroom door. My body jerked, heart hammering so loudly it felt like it might break through my ribs. I wasn't expecting anyone. Nobody should be here. The knock came again, deliberate, slow. My hands were numb as I reached for my phone, but my instincts screamed at me not to make a sound. Olivia? The voice was calm, familiar. My blood ran cold. I knew that voice. I had heard it countless times in the hallway, in casual conversations. The voice of my landlord, Mr. Harris. The knock became a pause, then a whisper through the keyhole. I didn't mean to scare you. Please, hear me out. I froze, caught between the urge to run and the unbearable curiosity of why he was standing there, knowing exactly what I had just discovered. My fingers hovered over the door handle. Every nerve in my body screamed danger, but my mind wanted answers. Slowly, almost unwillingly, I turned the knob. The door creaked open, and there he stood. Not the man from the footage. He looked different here, more vulnerable, more human. His eyes weren't calculating. They were pleading. My chest tightened, and my voice caught before I could even speak. Olivia, I can explain. And in that moment, I realized that whatever he had been doing, it wasn't just obsession. It was something much, much more complicated. Something that might change everything I thought I knew about him. He stepped inside, carefully closing the door behind him. The air between us felt electric, charged with a mix of fear, confusion, and something I couldn't name. My apartment, once my sanctuary, now felt like a stage for a secret I wasn't sure I wanted to uncover. I don't understand, I stammered, my voice barely above a whisper. Why were you in my apartment? And the camera? My words trailed off as my chest tightened. He swallowed hard and ran a hand through his hair, his usual composure slipping. Olivia, I've been trying to protect you. I froze. Protect me? From what? My heart pounded so loudly I thought he could hear it over the quiet of my apartment. He took a deep breath. A few months ago, I noticed some suspicious activity around this building. Strangers who shouldn't have been here, people watching the tenants. I wanted to make sure you were safe. I didn't know how else to do it. I blinked, unable to process. My mind raced, flipping through every interaction, every moment that had felt off. The thought that he might have been trying to safeguard me didn't erase the terror I'd felt watching him in my bedroom. But there was something in his eyes, a genuine fear, a vulnerability that made my anger waver. You put a camera in my bedroom to protect me? I asked, incredulous. Do you even hear yourself? He flinched, but didn't deny it. Yes, I know it seems invasive, insane even. I never intended for you to see it. I needed to know you were safe when I couldn't be there. I wanted to scream at him, to tell him how betrayed I felt, how violated. But then I noticed the tremor in his hands, the way his eyes darted nervously toward the window, as if expecting someone to appear. And something in me shifted. Perhaps this wasn't about obsession. It was about fear. Fear for me. Fear I'd never imagined. "Why didn't you just tell me?" My voice softened despite myself. He closed the distance between us slowly. "Because I wasn't sure you'd believe me, and because I couldn't risk anyone finding out and putting you in danger." His words were a whisper, but they resonated with a weight that made my chest ache. I took a step back, wrestling with my feelings. The violation, the fear, the strange relief, it all collided inside me. I wanted to hate him. I wanted to scream. But part of me understood. He had been hiding something noble behind something terrifying, a secret buried in shadows that he never wanted to reveal. "I don't know what to say," I admitted, my voice breaking. "I feel everything. Angry, scared, confused, but also," my throat tightened, "also strangely grateful." He looked at me with a mixture of hope and vulnerability, like a man who had carried a burden far too long. "You don't have to forgive me, not yet, but I had to tell you. I couldn't hide it anymore." For a long moment, silence stretched between us. The rain outside tapped lightly against the window, the only sound in the room. And in that quiet, I realized that the truth, as terrifying as it had opened a door I never expected, one that might lead to understanding, maybe even something more. But just as I began to breathe, a sudden knock shattered the fragile calm, louder and more urgent this time. My stomach sank. "Olivia, open up, now." The urgent knock rattled my nerves like a hammer against glass. My body stiffened. I glanced at Mr. Harris, whose calm composure had completely vanished. His eyes widened, and I could see the tension in his jaw. Whoever was outside, it wasn't just a visitor. I have to see who it is," I whispered, almost to myself. My fingers trembled as I edged toward the door, glancing back at him. His hand found mine, gripping it, not to stop me, but as if to share the weight of what was coming. I unlocked the door and swung it open just a crack. Standing there was a man I didn't recognize, but the look in his eyes sent a shiver down my spine. Anger, determination, menace. He wasn't here to apologize. My heart raced as I tried to piece together why he had come. "You," he spat, his gaze darting past me to Mr. Harris. "You've been interfering for months. You shouldn't have gotten involved." I felt the room shrink around me. My apartment, my sanctuary, had become a battlefield. Mr. Harris stepped forward, placing himself between the stranger and me. "I was protecting her, that's all. If you have a problem, take it up with me." His voice was calm but edged with steel. The man sneered, but for a moment, the tension wavered. I realized then that the danger I'd feared had never been random. It had been real all along. And Mr. Harris? He hadn't been the villain in the footage. He had been my shield, silently standing guard while I went about my life, oblivious. The stranger hesitated, sizing him up, before muttering something under his breath and retreating. The sound of his footsteps faded, leaving only the soft tap of rain on the window. I exhaled shakily, feeling a tremor of relief pass through me. I turned to Mr. Harris, still catching my breath. The fear, confusion, and shock were all there, but so was something new, gratitude. I realized how heavy his secret had been, how much courage it had taken to act in the shadows and reveal the truth to me now. I I don't know what to say, I admitted, my voice cracking. I was so angry at you and scared, but now I see. I swallowed hard, emotions crashing over me. You were protecting me all this time? He stepped closer, his expression softening, no longer the distant landlord I'd barely noticed, but a man with a depth of care I had never expected. You don't have to forgive me. Just understand. I couldn't risk losing you or letting anyone harm you. Tears welled in my eyes as I let the anger and fear melt away, leaving only a strange, tender connection. For the first time in months, I felt truly safe, not just from the outside world, but with someone who had silently carried my burden. I reached out and took his hand. The warmth of it was grounding, a silent promise that perhaps, just perhaps, the ordinary life I had once craved could now be extraordinary, with trust, understanding, and maybe even love growing from the shadows of fear. And as the rain continued its gentle rhythm against the window, I knew that some secrets, no matter how terrifying, could lead to a bond stronger than fear itself.